able to hit the ground running when they come out here for our one and only practice session for all three of our Road to Indy categories. So those of you who are here this weekend to enjoy yourself and, of course, a great weekend of racing, you're going to see the full lineup of the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires, essentially the future stars of the NTT IndyCar Series. The Cooper Tires USF2000 Championship is the very first rung of the program. Then they move to the Indy Pro 2000 Championship presented by Cooper Tires. And finally, Indy Lights, the top level. Drivers, of course, from there moving right into the NTT IndyCar Series. And I think for those of us with the Road to Indy, we're pretty excited this particular weekend because we kind of go back a couple of years to the debut of the Dallara IL-15 in Indy Lights. All five of our top five finishers in the points from 2015, they're all racing IndyCar here this weekend. So with R.C. Anderson coming back with Carlin here this weekend, throw in Jack Harvey as well, we're super excited to have it shows the value of Indy Lights. If you run Indy Lights, you run well, and you're able to work on the sponsorship side, you're going to be able to get to the IndyCar program, and that's what this whole Road to Indy program's all focused on. It's just developing these drivers, getting them ready to go.
Exactly right. And tip of the hat to Anderson Promotions, who sanctions all of these series, and the great job that they've continued to do. There's been a bit of flux in the sponsorship, and there was a lot of talk about, oh well, it's going to go away. It's gone from strength to strength, if anything. So, it's great to see that you guys are back with a vengeance and are continuing with a vengeance, shall we say? And the Road to Indy.
Yeah,
continues apace.
It's not going anywhere. We have such a great program, a lot of great teams, and that's you have the Anderson Promotions crew who run the program, run all the events and the program on the whole. But the foundation, the building blocks of any racing series are the teams.
Right.
Drivers come and go. Drivers will work their way through the ranks. Some of them will get to the very top. Some move on to sports cars. Others just kind of stop their racing dreams. But it's those building blocks, which are the racing teams, that we need to have. We have such good teams. We've got new teams coming in potentially for 2020.
Yep.
We have a new team in the Indy Pro 2000 category this weekend as well. Turn 3 Motorsports, which is run by Peter Dempsey, a former Freedom 100 winner.
Right.
Peter, of course, has done a lot of engineering for teams. He has his own team based out of the Audubon Country Club in Joliet, Illinois. But great to have him here with a brand new team with Antoine Como as well, a new driver for the series. So we're excited. We got some great drivers, and again, every time we're at a weekend, we get to see the fruits of our labors when we see the drivers like a Colton Herta, Pato O'Ward, Ed Jones, Spencer Piggott, all the drivers who have moved their way, of course, into the NTT IndyCar Series. And, of course, the big one was the Indianapolis 500, when we've got a chance to see that unbelievable battle for the final position, the final row for the 500. And, of course, Kyle Kaiser, our 2017 Indy Lights champion, just squeaking in at the end in an emotional afternoon in Indianapolis.
Exactly it was. First lap's in the books, so time's not yet significant. The times, for those of you with stopwatches in hand, that you'll be looking for. Qualifying record, Matt Brabham set it back here in 2012, a 120.250. The race record set here a year ago by the eventual champion, Kyle Kirkwood, a 121.2979. So those are the times we'll be looking for. So far, with just one lap in the books, they're in the 126s, but those times will come down very quickly as we get some temperature into these Cooper tires.
17 drivers here this weekend to contest this doubleheader at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Again, drivers to watch. John mentioned early, Braden Eves, your point leader in the number 8. I would say normally would say all 3 Cape cars. There's actually 4 drivers under the Cape Motorsports banner here this weekend. Jack Crawford, the young 14-year-old from Houston, Texas, has moved from D-Force to Cape Motorsports, and it's actually interesting, John. You'll like this. The driver coach for Jack Crawford has experience here at Mid-Ohio, just not on the road course. Scott Speed, the Rallycross driver, was here about a month ago to run the Cooper Tire Rallycross program over there, but in the Keyhole area. Scott's another young guy that I've known. I say young guy because I remember when he was 15 or 16 racing go-karts, right? But we, of course, watched Scott go through F1, NASCAR, and then become one of the top rallycross drivers in the country. So Scott's working with Jack Crawford. We have 3 14-year-olds as part of the program this year, and it's amazing how good they have been. Not so much podium results or race wins, but you look at our three 14-year-olds, Reese Gold, Nolan Siegel, and Jack Crawford. And specifically Siegel and Gold, they've finished almost every lap of the. I don't think they've had one incident yet on the racetrack, which is great. And that's That's what it's all about.
Exactly.
Seat time. You want these drivers to stay out of trouble. And there has been some issues for Crawford, not of his own doing. He got taken out in the opening practice session at Toronto. It put him way on the back foot for the weekend, but he came back with 2 very good results on Saturday and Sunday. But nonetheless, a couple of 14-year-old drivers showing, I would say, surprising maturity, I think, to get halfway through the season here now.
Hunter McElroy also looking impressive. Second in the points to Braden Eves. He was atop the charts just a moment ago. Braden Eves just took that spot back from him. Young gentleman from Australia, if memory serves.
Yeah, the great story. He's actually from New Zealand.
New Zealand.
And
there
the great story about Hunter McElroy is, now the program did not continue with Mazda's departure for this year, but last year and the last couple of years, we've had the Mazda USF2000 $200,000 scholarship.
Right.
So essentially, we've pushed out through all the different Formula the 1600s, all the different open wheel Formula ladder programs around the world, and offered the champion a shot to come to a shootout every year. So last year, I think there was 20-something drivers that came to Arizona for a shootout, 2-day deal, and the Bondurant Formula Mazda cars. They were doing interview testing, talking to team owners,
Sure.
a little bit of everything. And one driver was going to win the championship, win that scholarship. 2 years ago, it was Oliver Askew.
Right.
He's in Indy Lights right now, leading the Indy Lights points.
Yep.
This year, or last year, it was Hunter McElroy.
Right.
So he wins the scholarship. He's running with Pabst Racing. But just a really incredible young man from New Zealand. He's got the speed. He's got the charisma. Just a really, really nice young kid. And fast. Bad fast. We've seen him do well. He was able to get his first victory at Road America. And again, right in the championship hunt, like you said, currently P2 in the championship. He's a ways back from Braden.
Right.
Because nobody else has gone on a 5-race win run earlier in the season. We'll see who steps up here because, Hunter McElroy, Darren Keene, those drivers coming off, and even Christian Rasmussen coming off wins over the last month, they can get on a bit of a tear. And they win a couple races here. And like I said, Mid-Ohio, always a turning point weekend because even the young drivers, John, who, started the season where maybe they were rookies, they were a little tentative, they were getting used to the cars and the tracks and the teams and their engineers. We're midway through now. They've got, they've had 5-race weekends. They know everybody on their team. This is, Mid-Ohio's where even the rookies will come out and be big.
The other winner on the season, Cameron Shields for Newman Wachs in the 73 car, took the win on the oval at Lucas Oil Raceway and then followed it up with a podium at Road America. Didn't have a great weekend at Toronto, so looking for good things from Cameron to be near the top of the chart.
So let me give you the story on Cameron Shields, which is tough. Like any young driver, having the budget to be able to go racing is tough to get. And they came into the season hoping to be able to find some more money midway through the season. They haven't been able to. Cameron did the best he could to try to get on the grid here this weekend. Cameron's here, but he's actually still with his Newman Wachs racing team, but he will not be driving here this weekend.
Oh, I'm sad to hear that. Yeah.
And he won on the oval at Lucas Oil Raceway for Newman Wachs. They did whatever they could to try to get him back on the track.
Right.
Not able to do that. He had a pretty big wreck at Toronto, which I think ate up a bit of his budget. So, and we've got some time now. We're over a month before we head to Portland on Labor Day weekend. So Cameron's going to try to keep getting the money together. A very talented young driver and a cool connection that we love as well. He's actually from Toowoomba, Australia. Yeah. Same hometown as Will Powers.
Exactly, yeah.
He's a driver we definitely want to see continuing on the road to Indy, and I know a lot of people are stepping up to try to potentially work with Cameron Shields. Hopefully we'll see him back at Portland.
Hunter McElroy, top of the speed charts, a 122.5840 as the times beginning to get kind of representative. Christian Rasmussen second quick, about 0.3 back. Braden Eves, the points leader, another 0.2 behind Rasmussen. And Darren Keene now up into that third spot. So,
I was just going to say Darren was down at about 10th position, and it wouldn't have surprised me. He had a pretty big off yesterday coming out of Thunder Valley over the hill and lost the rear of the car. We've seen that happen many times, but it was a big shunt. And the team had to rebuild the car over the evening. Same went for Jack Crawford. He had an issue there as well. But Keene now back up to P3, half a second separating the top 3 drivers, less than a second separating your top 11. So let's have a look quickly here. Those of you who are around the racetrack, we'll give you kind of an update on the drivers who are quick right now. Hunter McElroy, number 22, P1, a 122.584. Track record still set back in 2012. Matthew Brabham, a 120.250. That was on the older Van Diemen chassis.
Right.
McElroy, a 122.584. Christian Rasmussen and Darren Keene, winners on the streets of Toronto, now second and third. Fourth is Braden Eves, your point leader. He'll bring the number 8 ball machine down pit lane, the white and black Cape Motorsports entry. Eves P4. Colin Kaminsky in the pass machine now jumping up to second, so he moves Rasmussen to third. Keen fourth. Bruna Tomaselli, the only young lady in the Road to Indy here in 2019 from Brazil. She's in the P5 spot. Eves in sixth. Zach Holden seventh. Manuel Suleiman in eighth spot. Even Sundar Amurthy in ninth, and Reese Gold 10th. Matt Round Garrido jumping up into the top five, coming off his first podium finish for BN Racing. Was able to get on the podium in race number 2 in Toronto. Now, again, let's also give a little bit of information on this session, too. They were able to use their tires yesterday. Nobody's going to start with fresh tires here right now because they only get 4 sets for 5 sessions throughout the day. So they get a carryover set. I'm not sure if I'll find out whether the carryover was from yesterday or was potentially from Toronto.
Right.
But nobody's starting on fresh tires yet. So they were out there on used tires. These times are good, but would not be surprised to see somebody put down some fresh rubber now to potentially look at doing a qualifying simulation.
Because the next time they'll be on track this afternoon, they will be in qualifying mode.
Exactly that.
And you have 2 qualifying sessions?
2 qualifying sessions, 2 races, 2 set qualifying sessions for those dedicated for those races. So,
got
indeed. It. Yeah, quick look here. I know that the drivers will be back on the racetrack for qualifying 1 this afternoon, 1:55. Also, we have an autograph session this afternoon for these drivers, too. I think it's, I want to say 11:50, I believe, autograph session.
Checking. That is correct. 11:30.
Yeah, so we have back-to-back sessions over in the Fan Village. Is that what we're calling it?
Yep, exactly.
USF2000 by themselves, 17 drivers at 11:30. And then just when they're all wrapped up, we have Indy Lights and Indy Pro at 12:10. So
the Fan Village located in the manufacturer's midway in the infield. For those of you familiar with Mid-Ohio, those of you that aren't familiar, go across the drive-over bridge and just follow the roadway over and look for the giant inflatable Firehawk as he is overlooking the Firestone Fan Village, and that's where you'll find the autograph sessions and lots of other good stuff going on.
Yeah, right after our autograph sessions, we wrap up both sessions for all 3 series. I'll be actually sitting down with Indy Lights driver Ryan Norman at the Cooper Tire stage. We'll have a Q&A with Ryan, of course, Ohio boy.
Yep.
From Aurora.
Yep.
He would love to win here. This is a place he wants to knock off. He's won at Gateway Motorsports Park, and he won earlier this year at Road America as well. 2 times a winner now in Indy Lights, and very likely could be moving to the IndyCar program next year. I know that they are very focused on trying to put a program to get Ryan, because he just tested here less than a month ago.
Yeah.
He got a chance to drive an IndyCar for the first time. Acquitted himself very well.
I don't want to be one to plant rumors, but I know that Michael Shank's looking to get a full-time effort going next year, and maybe 2 cars. Yeah, who knows?
Oh, wow, a big Ohio connection for sure. Yeah.
I have no knowledge of that. I'm just putting it out there.
It's funny, yeah, zero knowledge, but it's a conversation I had earlier in the week when somebody was, I think it was actually on Twitter, somebody was talking about the fact that there's no open seats.
Right.
And I've always said, well, there's lots of open seats if you bring the money, right? Because
exactly.
IndyCar is about business. So if you have the funding to be able to come,
right.
We know there's 2 cars sitting at Juncos.
Yep.
We know that Michael Shank would love to go full-time IndyCar racing next year. Would likely probably do that with Jack Harvey.
Sure. But
bring the money for a second car.
Absolutely.
Let's do this. So, and I have a belief that you're going to see at least 3 drivers coming up from Indy Lights to IndyCar next year.
Sure.
You know, obviously one of the champions, our champions, is going to get 3 races.
Yep.
Potentially be able to put more races together. But Oliver Askew, Renus VK, Ryan Norman, all these drivers very focused on potentially moving to the NTT IndyCar Series next year.
Hunter McElroy, top of the order, a 122.0828, about 2/10 in front of Christian Rasmussen.
You know what I like? I like 4 different teams in the top 4 too. Anytime I see more than one team up front, like if we look right now, Cape Motorsports in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. So they've got some pretty good speed for Cape, as we always know. But Hunter McElroy for Pabst Racing up front. Then you've got Christian Rasmussen, as you said, for Jay Howard Driver Development. Then you've got Pabst again for Sundar Amurthy. Then you go down through Cape to BN Racing with Matt Round Garrido, who's a very talented young driver from England who was one of the top F1600 drivers over there. Great to have him here. And he, again, coming finally really starting to get comfortable with the tires, the car, everything. Had a really good run in Toronto. Was one of those top 5 guys all weekend.
His first podium, yeah.
Got that 3rd place finish. Great podium for him. And I tell you, to see his face when he got out of the car, he was just absolutely over the moon, which was great for Matt.
Want to give a shout out to another team I'm familiar with, Miller Vinatieri Motorsports, with Jack William Miller, a second generation racer. His father, a multiple starter in the Indianapolis 500.
Yep.
Jack William and his teammate has a famous last name, Eduardo Barrichello. And yes, he is the son of Rubens Barrichello. In fact, you occasionally see Rubens stalking the pit lane.
Oh,
he's not, I don't know if he's here this weekend or not.
I haven't been to their pit to see whether or not Rubens is here today. I would assume he probably would be. He loves being here at the racetrack.
Yep.
Eduardo's actually been coming on strong. So has Jack. They've had good runs. But Eduardo was really strong in Toronto. He was right up there battling in the top 6, top 7. And I expect to see him get just better and better. Barrichello will be in the number 41. Jack Miller in the number 40. And those cars pretty easy to find because they've kind of got that really striking red color.
Almost Ferrari
both cars
red.
in the red.
Yeah.
We talked about Hunter McElroy winning the Mazda USF2000 $200,000 scholarship. With that, he's driving what is the Soul Red Mazda, and that's again one of the kind of the color that is Mazda's own color, the Soul Red. You'll see a lot of Mazdas out there with that Soul Red color, and we use that color for the drivers who have the scholarships.
Right.
So of course, Hunter McElroy, the scholarship winner here in the USF2000 program. Kyle Kirkwood winning dominating. I don't want to say dominating because he didn't really dominate the series last year. He got 13 wins. Because he did everything you're supposed to do.
Yep.
He wasn't the fastest driver every weekend, but he was so smart and showed the racecraft, and that's what played so well for him. But 13 wins for Kyle Kirkwood, you can, I guess, call it domination because he reset a record. So by winning that championship, he wins the scholarship to move to Indy Pro 2000 this year. So the Soul Red colors will be on the machine of Kyle Kirkwood. He's running for RP Motorsport USA.
Right.
And then, of course, the driver who won Indy Pro 2000 last year, Renus VK.
Yep.
He's got those colors in Indy Lights.
Exactly.
Running with Juncos Racing. And he's been a race winner already. We've had some exciting racing in the Indy Lights program, and the championship, of course, big. Number of different winners. Of course, we had Aaron Tielitz come back. Of course, a couple of years in Indy Lights. He's been running with the AIM Vassar Sullivan team in the IMSA program. Potential for Aaron Tielitz to find his way to IndyCar next year as well. That's some of the chatter within the paddock. And he was a race winner in Toronto with Bilardi Auto Racing. They've been very good there. And you have to go back and look at some of the guys that have won for them at that track. Gabby Chavez, maybe Felix Rosenquist, who was able to win in Toronto and then springboarded that Toronto victory to get noticed by Chip Ganassi.
Hunter McElroy has broken into the 121, so we're getting serious with the times here. A 121.7656, potentially on old tires. And that's very close to Kyle Kirkwood's race lap record, a 21.29. So time's beginning to tumble here in the second half of this session. We've got about 12 minutes remaining. Christian Rasmussen, second quick. Colin Kaminsky, third. Ron Garrido is fourth quick. Yuvan Sundramuthi is fifth. Darren Keene, Braden Eves, the points leader. Jack Crawford, Ryan Gold, and Bruno Tomaselli, your top 10.
So interesting. We give these drivers a longer run for the opening practice session. It'll be 30 minutes. Our qualifying sessions are only 20 minutes long. So a little different because in past years when we had a 30-minute qualifying session, they may have had time to be able to come in and change tires midway through the session. That way, so you make a change to the car. How does it feel? You go out, you get a couple laps, bring in, put the fresh rubber on, make a minor change, and go qualify. The 20-minute sessions kind of changes your mind a little bit because a red flag changes everything.
Right.
You got to go out and get the banker lap in. A lot of teams have not been pitting. They've been just going out for the one session, putting the fresh rubber on and going. So we'll see what happens here. One of the stories we'll be watching throughout here in the USF2000 program, Timmy Pagliuso, a brand new driver in the number 77 for Legacy Autosport. Timmy actually I think he's the right rear tire changer for Takuma Sato.
Oh, okay.
So he is going to be racing here this weekend, 27 years of age. We'll talk more about a program he's set up to raise some money for fallen firefighters. But Timmy did the test day. He's wanted to run USF2000. They've got a program together with him to run Legacy Autosport. He's trying to come up to speed right now. Still a ways off, but every time he gets on the track, he's going to find more pace and get quicker and quicker. Already about a second faster in terms of being close to the pole sitter as he was in the test that we had here a number of weeks ago. So Pagliuso, the number 77, will hopefully see his times continue to fall. But a really good story because he's going to run USF2000 this weekend, and then he's going to be over the wall in Sunday morning warm-up and the Sunday race as well with Takuma Sato.
About a half a dozen drivers in the pits or just coming out of the pits as we're counting down to about 10 minutes remaining in the session. So that's the time for these teams to have a look at tire temperatures, have a chat with their drivers, find out what they need as the 41 of Eduardo Barrichello rolls to a stop here in front of his pit.
Interesting thing, John. I'm looking down to see if anybody is going to fresh rubber, and that's not something I've seen yet. I have a feeling that knowing how much this racetrack changes.
Yes.
It just, you know how it changes from the morning to the afternoon.
Exactly.
And then you throw these drivers on a weekend with IndyCar and MX5 Cup and of course, different rubber going down. The drivers always having to kind of adapt to it. I'm not seeing anyone really make the jump to fresh tires, which surprises me a little bit. Of course, as you said, Barrichello coming in the number 41 machine. One of our Jay Howard drivers coming into, I'm not sure. No, that was actually one of the D-Force drivers coming into pit lane as well. Probably Manuel Suleiman in the number 12. He's been good this year. He's had some great runs. Has had some bad luck as well. Currently 6th in the points.
Right.
And again, just looking to see if they are going to make a move to fresh rubber. Suleiman on pit lane. The
couple podiums early in the season. One at St. Pete, another one at the Grand Prix of Indianapolis.
Jack Crawford coming down pit lane, as is the number 3 of Reese Gold. So 2 of the Cape Motorsports drivers coming in here. 8.5 minutes remaining. Good shot there coming through. Do we call that madness still?
Sure.
I know when I was here, when I raced here, it was madness.
It still is.
Into Thunder Valley.
It's still mad.
One of my favorite corners is coming the right-hander over
Turn
the
9.
crest down into Thunder Valley. It's just such a, and then back up over the hill again. The car unloads in turn number 11. I absolutely love this racetrack.
Exactly. Yeah. Good.
I've had a chance to drive here in so many different things. I think that's why I like it so much. A 125cc shifter kart back in the early 2000s. I ran a Formula V here, a Formula First. Just such a fun racetrack.
Turn 9 is, according to a lot of drivers I've talked to, turn 9 is one of the last turns you learn to go fast at. Because
that makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. It requires a little finesse to make that turn work for you.
Because to be honest, anybody new, you just tell them, get through it.
Yeah.
And then stay off the throttle until you're straight again.
Exactly.
It's such a tough corner.
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the great things about this track, because there's so many different characteristics to different parts of this track where you have to nail.
Right.
You have to be able to go unbelievably quickly through turn number 1, but you drop a wheel there and you're in trouble. You're in big trouble.
Yep.
Then coming through the off camber, downhill, keyhole, it's just such a tough track to master. Once you get it, that's what separates, I think, the front of the pack from the pack.
It's also tough for the teams because if you get the car set up, beautifully for let's say the carousel or the keyhole, it may be junk someplace else.
That's true.
So it's really a track where the setup is a bit of a compromise.
So it's shot there through turn 8, 9. Here, we have a driver off to the inside, coming into Thunder Valley now. Driver getting refired. That's one of the Pabst racing cars. The 21. That's going to be Yuvan Sundaramurthy. Yeah. Yuvan made his debut here at Mid-Ohio last year in USF2000, running with Exclusive Autosports. Had a couple of top 10 finishes, I believe. Had a really good outing as a rookie. In fact, I gave him my Road to Indy Insider Star of the Race at one point because I was just so impressed with the way at 16 years of age he handled himself. First time on a very tough racetrack in USF2000, and he acquitted himself so very well.
He's made it into the pit lane, so see what sort of issue he might be having.
Yeah,
Engine sounds a little rough.
He just came to a stop on driver's right coming down into Thunder Valley. Let's have a quick look at the top 5 once again. McElroy, Rasmussen, Kaminsky, Sundaramurthy, and Tomaselli, and that tells me right there Pabst Racing is on it. McElroy, Kaminsky, Sundaramurthy, and Tomaselli, 4 of the top 5, all Pabst Racing. They have a very good setup dialed in here today for this USF2000 program.
And Kaminsky, Sundaramurthy, and Tomaselli separated by less than 1/10 of a second between the three of them.
You're right.
So it is really tight.
Yeah, it's actually 2/100ths of a second between Kaminsky, Sundaramurthy, and Tomaselli. 2/100ths of a, less than 2/100ths of a second. Oh no, just over 2/100ths. That's amazing.
Yeah, the biggest gap is between Christian Rasmussen and Colin Kaminsky. That's almost 3/4 of a second.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's a huge gap here because the rest of the field is so tightly bunched. You've got to go all the way down to Braden Eves is 9th currently, and he's a full second off the pace. But 6/10 of that is the gap between Hunter McElroy and Christian Rasmussen.
Only 2 drivers able to get below the 122s, and that is, again, McElroy and Rasmussen. Both those drivers race winners here in 2019. McElroy scoring the victory at Road America, and Christian Rasmussen, of course, coming off the win, just the most recent win, race number 2 in Toronto.
Yep.
Colin Kaminsky, he's the driver knocking on the door, currently P3 out of Illinois. For Pabst Racing, he's had some pretty good runs, a couple of pole positions, one on the oval at Lucas Oil Raceway, one at Road America as well. Actually had him in the booth as our driver analyst for an Indy Pro 2000 race at Road America, and did a tremendous job.
Super.
Colin's a very well-spoken young man and super quick behind the wheel. Had a couple of top fives going in Toronto before an incident in the final race. Behind the top running 5 drivers as Tomaselli's in pit lane as well. Matt Round-Garrido for BN Racing in 6th. Darren Keene in 7th. Jack Crawford 8th. Braden Eves in 9th. And Reese Gold in 10th. We'll give a shout out to those who are tuning in on the Road to Indy TV app. If you have not yet downloaded the Road to Indy TV app, great way to follow the future stars of the NTT IndyCar Series. You download that app to your mobile device, and we have live timing, live video, of course, all the play-by-play. All the episodes of Road to Indy TV are on there. Just a tremendous way to be able to stay in touch with all the racing. If you're a fan here that maybe comes to Mid-Ohio once a year for IndyCar or other events that they have here, and you like what you're seeing with Road to Indy, and you want to follow these young guys, download the app. Best way to follow us when we're at any of the other races throughout the season.
Just about 3.5 minutes remaining in this first and only practice session for the Cooper Tires USF2000 drivers. As they'll be
Zach Holden making his second start for Legacy Autosport, a brand new team here in 2019. Made his debut for them last weekend, or like 2 weekends ago at the event in Toronto. And had one really good race and one rough race. Got into the wall late in the event, but nonetheless, Holden with some good speed in the number 14 in Toronto. Currently P11 here. He does have some seat time, I believe, here. He's done some racing here at Mid-Ohio.
And he had a podium early in the season at St. Pete, and then wasn't able to compete at Lucas Oil Raceway or at Road America, but then back at it at Toronto. So
McElroy up top, 121.424. Very impressive run for McElroy.
And he's starting to put in some quicker laps now. His last lap was only about 0.3 off his best, so he's got another lap in the 121, so 121.7 on his last lap. So we'll keep an eye on the timing charts here in these final 2 minutes to see if anybody has a flyer to put in. Colin Kaminsky has been bumped back to 4th by Darren Keene as the Cape Motorsports driver takes over the 3rd spot in this practice session. He's about half a second behind Christian Rasmussen for J. Howard Driver Development.
So again, to give you some information, I talked a little bit about the carryover sets that drivers are allowed to use. And on a test day, like we had here yesterday, all the Cooper Tire techs are here. Every tire gets scanned in. They know it's in the tire database. The carryover set these drivers, I said they started off the session here with a carryover. They can only use the carryovers for the first practice session. That's it. You can't hold on to that. You can't use it at the start of a qualifying run. Only, essentially, it's here's your tires, so you're not starting on fresh rubber for the very first practice session of a weekend.
Got it.
Just a little update there.
Braden Eves jumps up to 3rd now. He was languishing down near the bottom of the top 10, which is kind of a surprise, but coming good here in the closing minutes of this session with 1 minute remaining. Braden clicks off a 122.077.
Yeah, you can see Darren Keene now goes to P3. He jumps by him. Car's starting to get a little lighter on the fuel load. These Cooper tires are so consistent throughout a 30-minute run that they're going to keep going quicker. Yuvan Sundaramurthy back out on the racetrack, able to diagnose whatever issue he had.
He's joined the 121 club, so we now have 3 drivers under a minute 22.
Tim Pagliuso as well, down to 5.2 seconds back. He was 7 seconds back at a time. He's cut a lot of time off right now. Good job for Pagliuso in that number 77, getting more comfortable with the Legacy Autosport team.
Yep.
Good for him. He comes across start-finish right now. He's got the number 6 behind him. That's Christian Rasmussen. Good to let him go. Let Christian go and try to follow him through the keyhole and learn something every time.
Go to school a bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Go to school is right. In comes 22 of McElroy. You said only about 10 seconds remaining. He'll call it a day. Let's see what happens here in the final lap. Hunter McElroy, the number 22.
A 21.4242.
Yeah.
That is quicker, not quite as quick, but within 0.2 of Kyle Kirkwood's race lap record.
Still 1.2 seconds off a qualifying record, though. I'm not sure if we're going to get anywhere close to that now. McElroy, Rasmussen, Sundermurli, Kaminsky, and Round Garrido, top 5. Everybody going quicker. Braden Eves, he'll get the checker. That'll be it for Braden as he comes across the timing stripe. Braden Eves, keen as well. Drivers working into pit lane.
There's Jack William Miller coming across. It looks like he'll end up 13th quick for Miller Vinatieri Motorsports. The 8-ball of Braden Eves. A bit of a surprise, a little deeper in the field than I would have expected. He's 7th quick, a 22.0, but he's only 0.6 off the fastest time by Hunter McElroy.
Cape Motorsports, 6th, 7th, 9th, and 10th. They will not be happy with that, I guarantee it. They're going to go to work when they get back and try to make some adjustments. And the thing about Nicholas and Dominic Cape is they're so good at what they do, they're going to know what changes to make.
Exactly.
Look for those drivers to find their way back up. Because sometimes, even though you see a team maybe a little lower in the grid where they're supposed to be, they're going to learn more from that. They may have rolled the dice. They may have tried something setup-wise. A team like Cape, you know that they're going to say, okay, we did this. We'll look over the data. This wasn't good enough. They'll make changes, and they're going to be back to the front before this all said and done. But it is, again, the drivers from Pabst Racing, so very impressive here. McElroy P1, Sundermurli 3rd, Kaminsky in 4th, Tomaselli 8th. So all 4 drivers from Pabst Racing in the top 8. Throw in Christian Rasmussen from J. Howard Driver Development in P2. Put Matt Round Garrido in 5th for BN Racing. We got ourselves a good battle to fire things up. But again, just the opening session. We're going to run through our entire Road to Indy ladder system here to kick off the day following MX5 Cup. USF2000 wrapping up with McElroy quickest. We got Indy Pro 2000 coming, John. Then we've got Indy Lights to roll out as well.
9:35, next session on track. That's about 15 minutes from now. And that'll be for Indy Pro 2000. And Rob Howden will be right back with us.
For 15 seasons, the Castrol Toyota Racing Series has led the way in New Zealand motorsport. With 170 drivers and 276 races so far, the graduates have made their mark in international motor racing. This is the pathway for the world's young drivers. And this series hits the racetracks of New Zealand for 5 weeks every year on the quest to find the next world champion.
Parker Thompson, Kyle Kirkwood, 1-2, great jump, we're underway. 3-3-3. It's a sweep, back-to-back gap.
Road to Indy Race Recap.
The Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires made its lone trip north of the border on the July 12th to 14th weekend to the beautiful lakeside city of Toronto and the challenging street circuit of Exhibition Place. After shaking off the rust at Road America at the end of June, Aaron Telitz returned to the seat of his number 4 Belardi Auto Racing Dallara, and he was immediately on pace to begin the Indy Lights weekend battle. The Road to Indy veteran set a new Indy Lights track record on the Toronto street circuit, qualifying for race number 1, and followed up with a dominant victory on Saturday afternoon. Andretti Autosport's Oliver Askew arrived in Toronto as the point leader, and he was also quick out of the gate, finishing second to Telitz in the opening race of the doubleheader. Sunday morning for race 2 was paced by Askew, but Telitz was again on the move at the green flag, aiming an aggressive move to the inside of turn 1 to assume the lead. Midway through the race, VK attempted to lunge for the lead heading into turn number 3 at the end of the Lakeshore Boulevard, but he could not make the turn and ended up in the tire barrier. Telitz was blocked from making the turn in the process, and he too made contact. This altercation opened the door for Askew to emerge as the leader, and he would go on to score his 4th win of the season to take a 25-point lead to Mid-Ohio in 2 weeks. The challenging Turn 11 caught out a number of Road to Indy drivers throughout the weekend. RP Motorsports' Kyle Kirkwood avoided these issues to sweep both Indy Pro 2000 qualifying session to start each race from the pole. On the run down to Turn 1 to start the first race on Saturday, Exclusive Autosports' Daniel Frost leveraged his P3 starting spot to make a decisive move down the inside of Kirkwood to take over the lead. Frost took advantage of the opportunity and pulled away to the lead until the full course yellow flew for the hard contact by De La Vera in Turn 11. But on both restarts, Frost handled his challengers and was rewarded with his 2nd win of the year. Point leader Rasmus Linn of Juncos Racing was strong all weekend. He finished 2nd in race 1 to extend his point lead over Parker Thompson, who rounded out the podium in his Able Motorsports entry. Kirkwood came back on Sunday, having learned from a Saturday start to lead green to checker for his third win in the last 4 events. The Cooper Tires USF2000 Championship saw a pair of new race winners in Toronto, as both Darren Keane and Christian Rasmussen notched their first Road to Indy victories. Keane emerged from a hard-fought battle with Rasmussen and Hunter McElroy on Saturday to record his long-awaited first victory, and Keane came back on Sunday looking for more, starting from pole. Rasmussen joined Keane on the front row for the second straight race, and this time, the J. Howard driver development pilot was the man to beat. The Danish driver did not put a wheel wrong, letting the fight take place in his rear-view mirrors. Keane capped off his Toronto weekend with a crucial second-place finish. With another enjoyable trip to Canada now in the history books, the Road to Indy Caravan will now return to the United States, which will take the teams and drivers to the popular Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course on the July 26 to 28 weekend.
Hi, my name is Braden Eves. I drive the number 8 car for Cape Motorsports in the USF2000 series. So I was born in Gahanna, Ohio, and just last year I moved to New Albany, Ohio. So I'm sharing the hometown of Graham Rahal. So I actually do a lot of driver coaching to actually support myself and my racing as well. Lately I've been spending a lot of time with my friends and girlfriend around water. I was just at her lake house a couple weekends ago, as well as my good friend has a pond at his house where I've been trying to get rid of this farmer's tan and just get some sun and enjoy the water, go swimming a little bit, and just relax a little bit, get some time away from the track. So my favorite racetrack so far has definitely been Road America. That place, the circuit itself is super technical. I really love the circuit, as well as just the atmosphere of the place. Being in the woods, the weather's always amazing. I really like that track, as well as Portland was my debut race last year in the USF2000 series. So I'm really looking forward to that, having a little bit of time there under my belt. We should be really strong there as well, so I'm really looking forward to Portland. You can follow me on the Road to Indy at Braden Eves on Instagram and Twitter, and at Braden Eves Racing on Facebook.
Boy, look at this freight train as now Malukas dives down to the inside. 3 wide through turn 4. Something's gotta give.
Road to Indy, beyond the grid.
Hi, my name is Nikita Lastichkin. I'm from Russia, Moscow, and I live in Los Angeles. And I also drive for Exclusive Autosport, car number 90, Indy Pro 2000. I'm from Russia originally, but I moved to California when I was 16. Yeah, it's been pretty wild. What can I say? Living in Los Angeles for about 10 years now, I have a lot of history with the city, and I always thought it would be super awesome to just run for the entire city with all the streets closed out. You know, I've been planning to do this for a couple of years, and I ran a full marathon at under 4 hours. It's just an amazing experience. When I'm not at the racetrack, if I'm not doing something racing related, I'm trying to do anything so I'm not thinking about racing. So perhaps traveling. I like taking road trips, going to museums. I like reading books. I like playing video games. So fun stuff like that. I married my wife quite a few years ago, and she's amazing, and probably the best decision I made in my life, and have yet to regret it. It's been great. Little did we know, we actually discovered that we used to live across the street from each other back in Moscow, which is a huge city, 12 or 15 million people, something like that. And yeah, we used to live across the street. Follow me on Road to Indy, and you can follow me on my Facebook, Instagram, Nikita Goes Racing, and on Twitter, Nikita Goes Racing. But that's because there's not enough characters, not because I'm a gangster.
Boy, look at this freight train as now Malukas dives down to the inside. 3 wide through turn 4. Something's gotta give.
Road to Indy, beyond the grid.
Hello, my name is Rasmus Linn. I'm driving the number 10 Juncos Racing in Indy Pro 2000. Yeah, I'm born in Kullavik outside Gothenburg. It's a quite small town, but we're not so many people, but it's good. The country is very clean and stuff, so I would say like it's very close to America. A lot of things it's quite similar, so it's quite similar to here. It's fun to have a lot of fans at home in Sweden as well. Yeah, we have worked a lot on that on the social media side to get a lot more fans than we had last year. So we work a lot on that, and yeah, I mean it helps me a lot. It gets me confident and stuff. So it's very good. I've always been a kid. I'm racing a lot, so I'm normally at home. So I'm always in the workshop and restoring go-karts, what I normally do, and yeah, I renovate go-karts from the 90s to 2000s. I just find them online I don't look on the condition, I just look at what type of frame it is and what engine it is on it. So I renovate the engine and I renovate the go-kart and find new pieces and put it together as it was at the 90s. So that's what I do. Yeah, some of them I sell and some of them I drive with and I do some races with them. You can follow me on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram is Rasmus_Lind and Facebook is Rasmus Linn Racing.
For 15 seasons, the Castrol Toyota Racing Series has led the way in New Zealand motorsport. With 170 drivers and 276 races so far, the graduates have made their mark in international motor racing. This is the pathway for the world's young drivers. And this series hits the racetracks of New Zealand for 5 weeks every year on the quest to find the next world champion.
Big, pretty big gap right now for Braden Eves. If he's able to manage his races, he's going to be able to go to the finale in Laguna with probably still a pretty good advantage.
Sure.
It's a little tighter here, of
Yep.
course, in Indy Pro 2000. Still 30 points. That's a lot for Rasmus. But all it takes is somebody getting on a run like Kyle Kirkwood's on right now. He's won 3 of the last 4 races. Maybe if he wins 2 more here, he's going to put himself back in the fight. But then we go to Indy Lights. And I want to say it was 3 points at Toronto. It's only 25 points now, so tighten it up even more. Oliver Askew leading Rinus VK.
So these drivers just making their way out. Talk a little bit about the difference between this car and the USF2000 car.
It's funny, we kind of sum it up in saying more of everything.
Right.
To be honest, because the interesting thing, this chassis, the tub itself, exactly the same
Yeah.
as USF2000. So the USF2000 car, both these cars made by Tatis.
Right.
They have exactly the same tub. So the USF17 and the PM18, the same tub. We just hang more of everything off it. It's
Right.
got 100 more horsepower, significantly more downforce, more braking, more.
Right.
We say more of everything,
Exactly.
and that's why they're so much quicker as well. At Road America, I want to say that the Indy Pro car was 10 seconds faster than the USF2000 car, and then again the Indy Lights car 6 seconds quicker than this one. So every step's designed to put these drivers in a different place where they're able to raise their game, raise their corner speeds, and just get faster and faster. We're trying to develop them for the NTT IndyCar Series, and you'll talk to some of the drivers who worked their way up. When we brought in the new Indy Lights car in 2015, that was a car that really changed everything because it's so much more like the Indy car with the Universal Aero kit now, and the drivers are able to transition right out of that into the Indy car almost seamlessly now. It's a lot more of everything again,
Yep.
the Indy car, but the transition's been a lot easier.
Talking about lap times here, about 6 seconds a lap quicker. The qualifying record, David Malukas set it here a year ago, 1:14.8576. The race lap record, Rinus VK, a 1:16.3310. So those are the kind of times we'll be looking at. As we said, we had times in the USF2000s in the 120s, 121s. So 5-6 seconds a lap quicker around the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for these Cooper Tires Indy Pro 2000 drivers.
Question I get asked a lot is the certain ages in different programs. If we look at the USF2000, we have some bunch of 14-year-olds, but I want to say 21, 22, probably our oldest driver on the racetrack. This category here, you're looking at 16, 17 being the youngest drivers in Indy Pro 2000. We do have a 57-year-old with us, though, of course. Always great to have the guys from Fat Boy Racing, Charles Fanelli in the number 83. Charles has had some pretty good runs here this year, and he'll be driving that Fat Boy Racing number 83 to his teammate Philippe Dennis in the number 98. Philippe's had some good runs here as well. But again, most drivers anywhere between 16 and 17 and probably 21, 22, maybe 23 years of age. Rasmus Linn, again, one driver you need to watch. The white and green Juncos colors. The teammates this year, Rasmus Linn and Stingray Robb. Linn in the number 10 from Sweden. Stingray Robb from Payette, Idaho in the number 2, his 3rd year in the Indy Pro 2000 category. He's a driver I think is ready for a race win, Stingray Robb. He's had some very good runs. Just needs to break through and get that victory. Parker Thompson, of course, would love to have some success here this weekend. He has in the past done well coming through USF 2000 and, of course, now in his 2nd year in Indy Pro. Nikita Lastishkin in the number 90. We'll look for him to be a top 5 runner here this weekend. And we'll say hello, of course, to a brand new driver, Antoine Como from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, in the number 3 for Turn 3 Motorsports. Peter Dempsey's team that's based out of Audubon Country Club.
Right. Making his first start. So
a top driver in the Radical Cup program. He's won some
Yep.
Radical Cup championships, Radical Cup races, but transitioning here into some open wheel racing. Antoine Como, his debut here this weekend, as I said, in the number 3. Jacob Abel in the Abel Motorsports team. Jacob actually doing some F3 racing as well. There's actually a doubleheader this weekend.
VIR.
We're here and they're at VIR. So
Yep, exactly.
So
yeah, Jacob not down there, but he unless the Able Motorsports team has a helicopter or a private jet, they can zip him back and forth between the two. Parker Thompson gets first blood after just 2 laps, so 1:18.1725. Rasmus Linn second quick by just about 1/10 of a second. Stingray Robb third, another 2/10 back. Kyle Kirkwood fourth. In the early days here of this 30-minute practice session.
Yeah,
Again, these drivers will be qualifying a little later this afternoon.
And we'll reset again that the drivers will be using probably a set of tires that they carried over from the test yesterday. We had a test day yesterday. All the drivers getting 3 sessions on the track. It's interesting. You talk about tests earlier in the season. It's tough because this track does change so much. One of the characteristics, the trademarks of Mid-Ohio, is a weekend in June is nothing like a weekend in July. Mm-hmm. And a Thursday in July is nothing like a Sunday in July. The track changes so much from day to day. Now, I saw the forecast. We're pretty even keel here this weekend.
It's going to get a little hotter as the weekend goes on.
Mid-80s though, like not too bad. No rain in the forecast, which is fantastic. Again, just getting early on in this session, but drivers kind of trying to keep going with the momentum that they had from yesterday. Indy cars have not got out there yet, so we don't have all that rubber down that's going to change the way they drive the racetrack. So. Right now, a good opportunity for them to get a good feel because they've slept on yesterday as well. That's one of the things about these young drivers. You throw them into a test day, and it's drive, debrief, drive, debrief.
Right.
You're hammering down. You're putting the laps down because it's only the 2 cars, the 2 series. They're banging out the sessions. Well, now you go have dinner. You sleep on it. You come back the next day. Everything you've done, it's kind of more maybe absorbed into your mindset, and we'll see who comes out strong here. Rasmus Linn, no surprise up top. Kyle Kirkwood, Parker Thompson, 3 of the drivers we expect to be challenging for a race win.
Yep.
Ian Rodriguez in the number 5, interesting story, ran the Euro Formula Open program last year in Italy. Has come over to run here out of Guatemala. Our first ever driver from Guatemala in the Road to Indy, a very international program. We'll go more over the different countries that are represented here in 2019. But Rodriguez has been very good. Got his first podium finish at Road America when Kirkwood was able to sweep the event in Wisconsin. P2, I believe. I think it was P2. Yeah, I finished second, actually, in race number 2. Jacob Abel now goes P1, 116.910. As we said, though, we're expecting times to get down probably into the low 115s, I'm going to say.
Right.
Not sure if we'll get into the 114s here with a more green track. But Jacob Abel, 115.9. Again, Jake has been able to work with Parker Thompson and just such a really good dynamic between those 2 drivers. One of the things about Parker is he's so well-spoken, so good in the car, but just tremendous out of the car as a representative for all his sponsors. And Parker's a story. We'll lead with that. The weird thing about Parker, like he's done so many times in his career, comes into the season, the off-season, with no opportunities.
Right.
No rides, nothing. I don't think I'm going to be driving this year. Well, gets an opportunity to race with Abel Motorsports. Is going to kind of, as I said, work on that setup development for Jacob, coach Jacob a little bit on having that data back and forth. Then he ends up getting a ride in a Porsche Cup car. I think it was a Porsche Canada car. And then he gets a ride in the Canadian Touring Car Series. Then he gets a ride in the Porsche Cup USA program as well on IMSA. And it's all of a sudden he goes from nothing to 4 different series. And I think he actually dropped the Porsche GT3 U.S. side to stay on Canada and his Canadian touring car program. But here's a kid that all of a sudden, you keep pushing, you keep working, you keep, networking, and you go from absolutely no rides to 4, and really with your stock on the rise. And Parker Thompson, we hope to keep him here on the road to Indy. I'd love to see him in Indy Lights next year. Always a possibility that he may become a sports car star in the future as well.
Kyle Kirkwood goes to the top at 116.6237. Jacob Abel right behind him by about a 1/10 at a 116.7. Rasmus Linn, the points leader, in 3rd, another 1/10 back. Then it's less than a 1/10 back to Ian Rodriguez and Parker Thompson, about a 1/10 back. So the top 5 separated by less than half a second. Stingray Robb right behind them. So this field much more tightly packed at the front, it looks like. Nobody really getting away in the early stages of this.
So again, I mentioned in USF2000, those of you fans who have settled in here to watch some early practice sessions, we talked about the Mazda Soul Red colors, of course, the scholarship winners. Kyle Kirkwood, the number 28 machine, the winner last year from USF2000, reset the single-season win record with 13 victories last year running for Cape Motorsports. Now with RP Motorsports USA, the Soul Red number 28, that's Kyle Kirkwood. He's won 3 of the last 4 races, currently P1, over a 1/10 quicker than Jacob Abel. Abel coming back, laying down to 116.358. So again, Abel looks like he's going to be up the pointy end of the grid here this weekend. There's the 83 of Charles Fanelli from Fat Boy Racing, 57 years young. Another incredible part of this racetrack. I don't think there's a corner, John. you can't say has it such unique characteristics, whether it's turn one, so flat out, the keyhole, the downhill, off camber, up on the the rumbles on the exit. And it's not even a straightaway. You can't even. The straightaway even has the little curve
Exactly.
in it, right? Down the hill.
It's got a dog leg.
Exactly. Down the hill into what do you call it? Turn three down the hill, then back up over the roller coaster that works its way around down into turn 4, 5, and 6. Such an incredible racetrack here at Mid-Ohio. Number of drivers into pit lane here now as we're just about 10.5 minutes into the session. Rasmus Linn, Stingray Robb, Parker Thompson. Number 2 of Robb just rolling down pit lane now. Antoine Como again making his debut weekend here in the Indy Pro 2000 category. Antoine Como, the number 3 for Turn 3 Motorsports. 17-year-old Antonio Serravalle coming off a really good run, a P4 in the opening race at Toronto, currently in the 12th spot, driver from Markham, Ontario. Philippe Dennis comes into pit lane as well in the number 98. He has not yet set up time on track. I think we've seen him on track, so potentially a transponder
issue. Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest.
Jacob Abel, 116.3.
And that is right about the same pace Renus VK set as the race lap record a year ago. So we're already getting down into race lap record pace. The qualifying record, David Malukas, a 114.8. And again, as we talked about tires, they're most likely carrying over tires from Toronto. So we'll see these times get quite a bit quicker, I think, in the first qualifying session coming up this afternoon.
I will confirm once I get back to the paddock after I have to do the Indy Lights, then I'll do the IndyCar session. I'll confirm whether these carryovers were from yesterday's test.
Right.
I would assume they're probably going to be from the test yesterday other than Toronto. They may hold the Toronto for a different event. We'll get the update. I'm going to assume the carryover tires were from yesterday's test. Here comes the Mazda-sponsored number 28 of Kyle Kirkwood. It's interesting, the mindset of any young driver. John, you've been doing this for a long time. You've talked to drivers, I don't care if they're 14 years of age or if they're 64 years of age. The mindset and the confidence of getting race wins just changes everything.
Exactly.
You could see the look on Kyle Kirkwood's face to start the season. Here's a guy that won 13 races last year. He's used to winning races, right? And finishing in the top 3 or on the podium.
Yeah, he dominated F3 and F4 same way.
You know it, right? And so to watch him at the start of the season, the frustration was starting to build.
Sure.
At the road course at Indianapolis, in one of the races, he actually got penalized for jumping the start. He got off the line earlier than the pole sitter. They put him to the tail of the field. They waved it off.
Right.
Put him to the tail of the field. He worked his way back forward again, but it was just the bad luck was mounting against him. And then, of course, like I said, the opening lap tussles, the skirmishes. He'd be down down pit lane to put a new wing on, crossed his fingers for a yellow flag to get back in the hunt. Now that he got those, but you could just see it in his eyes. And I've been able to watch Kyle race through his karting career, of course, in his early years running in the other open wheel programs. That race win, the stress that came off his back with the first race win at Road America just changed everything. And then he wins again. And then he comes to Toronto with this momentum and strength. Now, he had an issue in the opening corner and had some trouble in the opening race, but then came back and won again on Sunday. 3 wins in the last 4 races. He's coming in here with just so much momentum and so much confidence. It just changes everything for a young driver.
And he is second quick right now, a 1:16.6237, about 0.3 off Jacob Abel's time. Jacob having a good run here this morning. Jacob still looking for his first podium on the season, as he did not compete at Road America. But
we'll throw this out there for Jacob Abel as well. He jumps, and I talked about the fact that young drivers, rookie drivers in the program get better, and this is that. Oftentimes for a younger driver, this is that breakout race. Kyle Kirkwood's got lots of experience. He was going to potentially win early.
Sure.
And with a team that was established last year, RP Motorsports Racing, Harrison Scott last year showed that they could win races. But Jacob Abel, brand new team, younger driver. He's only been racing for 4 years too. He didn't do the 10 years of go-kart racing beforehand. He's only been racing for 4 years here. And then you turn around and you look at how he's kind of stepping up, the confidence coming for him. He's been to this racetrack before. He'd never been to St. Petersburg.
Right.
He'd never been to Toronto. There's tracks he'd never been on before. So
Sure.
for him to be able to come here, a track he's tested at, he's raced at.
Yep.
This is going to be his breakout race where he's going to have just that such higher level of comfort from the very first session from right now.
And in the F3 series last year, he was Kyle Kirkwood's teammate. So, I'm sure, he learned a lot by working with Kyle and seeing, what his racecraft was all about and seeing what his debriefing skills were all about. And so Jacob's gone to school with some good people, obviously, and really coming good here, as he has still got the quick time in this session, a 16.2, about 3/10 quicker than Kyle Kirkwood. Daniel Frost, third fastest, less than a tenth behind. Rasmus Linn, another 2/10 back in fourth. Ian Rodriguez rounding out the top five, 28/10,000ths off of Rasmus Linn's time.
Just past the halfway point in the session now. A number of drivers have come into pit lane and left. Abel still in here in the 51. I think Parker Thompson potentially fresh rubber on to head back out as well. Nikita Lastishkin in the number 90 for Exclusive Autosports was in and out, as was Corey Enders and Moises De Oliveira, both the D-Force drivers in pit lane now. Let's see if I can have a look down there. Is anybody putting on rubber? Long way down pit lane for us to see whether they got stickers on. Here comes Antoine Como in the number 3 for Turn 3 Motorsports.
Yeah, just looking at the cars on pit lane, I don't see stickers on anybody that's parked down there. So
you know you're a veteran, folks. Let me tell you right now, John Phippen just pulled up the binoculars. I was like, because I'm pulling the readers down. I'm trying to use the regular eyes. No, John knows what he's the voice of Mid-Ohio.
I've got old eyes.
Yes,
I
but
need
you're
all
also,
the help I can get.
You're the veteran. You understand. You've been in this booth. I try to think back the first time I was in this booth with you. It had to be 2010 or something like that.
Oh, sure.
It's been 10 years or more.
Yeah.
Been up here and getting a chance to work with you, John. I remember I wrote an article about you one time in Formula Car Magazine. I think I might have been up here for an SCCA runoffs as well.
I've still got that issue.
I'm happy to hear that. That's awesome. Number 68, Daniel Frost coming to the pit lane as well.
Yep.
Always interesting because it's something we don't get to do a lot at tracks when we work with the guys you have, Rusty and Tom, out on the racetrack, and of course you'll fill me on. We saw Rusty already. Do we still?
Rusty will be on the back straightaway.
Yep.
Brian Culbertson is
That's
in the
right.
S's, and Tom Michaels back at turn 9.
There you go.
They'll be up later this afternoon, and obviously with us throughout the rest of the weekend. So.
Again, so not something we normally do at a lot of the racetracks, having the different turn announcers, which is just unique here for Mid-Ohio. Abel impressive early, a 116.2. It makes me wonder whether or not they put fresh tires on from the very start of the session. Of course, they've got 2 drivers to work with. They've got Jacob Abel in the 51, Parker Thompson in the number 8 machine. Parker back by about 0.7 of a second from his teammates.
And just now goes to 4th.
Just as I say that, he gets a couple tenths of a second. So Parker Thompson to P4. Less than 9/10 of a second separating your top 8. It's Jacob Abel in the 51. Let's throw some numbers and names out for you. Jacob Abel in the 51. Rasmus Linn in the number 10 for Juncos Racing. That's that white and green car. Then Cal Kirkwood in the Soul Red, number 28, P3. The 68, the black and kind of candy apple red for Exclusive Autosport. Their traditional livery. That's Daniel Frost from Singapore, the number 68, 2 times the winner this year. Parker Thompson. Only 2 wins, but those came in the opening weekend at St. Petersburg. He was able to sweep at St. Pete. Parker Thompson and the Able Motorsports, number 8. Ian Rodriguez for RP Motorsports, the gray and black, number 5. That's 6th. Stingray Robin, the number 2 from Idaho, in the white and green Juncos, number 7. And Nikita Lastishkin in the number 90. Born in Moscow, now lives in Los Angeles. Lastishkin in the number 90 in that 8th position.
Corey Enders in 9th in the 7 car. Moises De Oliveira in the 6 car.
Both the D-Force drivers. You're able to see
exactly
beautiful white and that brilliant blue, the colors, the livery colors of D-Force. Antoine Como in the black, blue, and white for Turn 3, the new team.
And he's on debut this weekend and doing well. He's up to 11th quick, and he's only about a 1.5 seconds off the top time. And so obviously Como's got some pace. He's looking good right out of the box.
Yeah, we'll talk more about him, but you got to realize he's coming in with a bit of a pedigree in terms of being able to win championships and races in the Radical Cup program. So he's got some seat time. In fact, probably has a lot of seat time, just not so much race time in this Indy Pro 2000 car, the Tatis PM18, about 270 horsepower behind these drivers.
Still no times from Philippe Dennis, but we're pretty sure that's a transponder issue because we've seen him on track. So they just may not be tripping the lights as he comes across the timing line. And just as a reminder, the timing line for all these practice and qualifying sessions is over in Thunder Valley. And the reason for that is so as the drivers complete a lap, they have the option to dive into pit lane right away. They don't have to go all the way around. When we get into race mode, the timeline will, again, move back to the finish line right here in front of us in the Cooper Tires press tower. Rasmus Linn has taken over the top spot, a 16.0584, and that is quicker than Renus VK's race lap record. Jacob Abel second quick by about 2/10. Kyle Kirkwood another 3/10 back in third. Parker Thompson less than a tenth back in fourth. Stingray Robb less than a tenth in fifth.
We saw the number 98 of Philippe Dennis actually rolling up. That's him right there coming down the front straightaway. He's right behind, or was right behind Ian Rodriguez, who's warming up his fresh tires. Number of drivers coming into pit lane now. Thompson, Robb, Frost. Yeah, here comes Thompson here as well in the number 8 with 9.5 minutes to go. You may want to grab the binoculars pretty soon. We may see ourselves with some fresh rubber. I don't know whether or not they're going to go to fresh rubber or they want to make some adjustments.
Usually we'll see a lot of these sessions with about 10 minutes left. It's really their last opportunity to come in and make some final adjustments before heading back out, because they realize the next time these cars are on track, they're going to be in qualifying mode.
Indeed.
So if they want to do a quali sim, this is the time to do it. But so far, I haven't seen anybody put stickers on, so I'm guessing they're going to save those for the qualifying session.
That's going to be interesting. Remember, 4 sets of tires. A lot of the times they'll potentially go out and maybe scuff a set. Go out and with the fresh rubber, bang out 3 laps maybe, and then come back in. You can use, what the car feels like,
right?
And then you use those tires for the race as well. You don't normally see drivers, depending on the racetrack, of course.
Sure.
Start the race on stickers. You get them scuffed. That way they've got that one heat cycle in them, and they'll last a little longer for the race. But a lot of drivers coming into pit lane here now. As I said, Parker Thompson in the 8, Stingray Robb in the 2, Daniel Frost in the 68, Ian Rodriguez as well in the number 5, Enders, De La Vera, Fanelli all into pit lane. Just less than 8.5 minutes remaining.
Linn, Abel, and Kirkwood, the top 3 are all still out circulating. There goes Rasmus Linn by. He still leads the parade, and he's knocking on the door of the 115, so 116.0584.
I'll tell you this, John. If Jacob Abel can stay where he is, P2, or even anywhere in the top 5, that's going to give him a lot of confidence going into this weekend. And this is, like I say, veteran drivers will often not put a lot of pressure on themselves in the opening session. If you're 6th or 7th, the car wasn't good, we'll make adjustments. I know I'm going to be up there. But for a young driver like Jacob, to be able to be top 5, if he's P2, he's going to just have so much confidence heading into qualifying this afternoon. So again, qualifying this afternoon for the drivers in this Indy Pro category. In fact, the final session for the Road to Indy drivers of the day, 4:15. They're back out again tomorrow morning at 9:45 for qualifying too. Then they'll have their first race at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That's one of the things about the Road to Indy is the way the schedule always rolls. We're a support series around the IndyCar program, so the track changes so much. They're going to qualify at 9:45. They race again at 5 o'clock at night. Everything changes so much. And really, to be honest, I know drivers and teams are going to look at that as a negative. I almost look at it as a positive, because what we're doing here is challenging these drivers. We're trying to challenge them as much as we possibly can. We put them on different racetracks, a natural terrain circuit like we have here at Mid-Ohio, a street circuit like St. Petersburg or Toronto. You throw these drivers on 2 ovals, Lucas Oil Raceway, 5/8 mile, a much larger and quicker gateway as well in August. This is just a challenge. It's different. The track's not going to be what you like. It's not going to be what you qualified on. Well, you know what? Adapt.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see what you can do. And that's a challenge for these drivers.
Exactly. That's something they're going to have to learn as they continue through. Jacob Abel making his way down the pit lane in the 51 right now. Rasmus Linn is still out circulating, as is Parker Thompson. Those are the only 2 of the top 5 that are on track.
Good shot there of the start-finish line here, coming out of the carousel. The right-hand downhill kind of sweeping corner, then it's a little left, coming back onto the start-finish. Good shot there of the keyhole. Love that corner. So tough because it's that downhill off camber. You're trying to roll the throttle, and you got to roll the throttle on early because that's the start of the long straightaway down to turn number 3. It's just your car has to work, and the driver has to be able to be real soft on the input.
It's one of the places, though, that if you get impatient and get on the throttle too quickly, it really costs you on the exit. So one of the first things when I drove here, just as a Mid-Ohio school driver, I've never driven here in anger, but it's one of the things you have to school yourself to wait to get on the throttle. Your first inclination is, okay, I've turned in, let's go.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself scrubbing off a whole bunch of speed as you're going too wide at the exit. So. Requires some patience as well, but obviously you want to get that timing just right so that it's because it is the most important turn on the racetrack because it leads on to the longest straightaway.
2 drivers in the pit lane, Jacob Abel and Kyle Kirkwood. Rasmus Linn is back on track, as is, remember, Parker Thompson, Stingray Robb, Daniel Frost, Ian Rodriguez, all were in pit lane just about a minute ago. They are back on the racetrack. Top 8 drivers separated by still just a second. Corey Enders 1.3 back. De Oliveira 1.4 back. Como 1.6 back. He's really acquitting himself well. Antonio Cervalli in that bright red number 11 machine is in the 12th spot, 1.7 back. Charles Fanelli getting himself settled in here, 4.4 back. Again, 57 years of age. Always awesome to have Charles Fanelli as part of the program. Fat Boy Racing. They brought on Philippe Dennis this year, helping him out and getting him on track for a full season. Philippe Dennis, as we said, in the number 98, some kind of a transponder issue, so no time coming up for Philippe. Those of you potentially watching here on the Road to Indy TV app, he is indeed circulating in the number 98, the driver from California. Living in Carmel. Another one of the drivers who have come up through the karting ranks. So many of the young drivers on the Road to Indy getting started. 5, 6, 7 years of age. Rasmus Linn on top. Jacob Abel into pit lane. I think he remains on pit lane now, actually, does Jacob Abel. They actually may have the cowl off the machine as well. Looks like one of one of the reps from Elite Engines down there with them as well, checking over the machine of Jacob Abel. Still good speed out of him, though, 116.2, just 0.2 of a second off of Rasmus Linn. So we didn't see anybody put any fresh rubber on. So indeed, they're going to take the carryover tires from yesterday's test session and continue to dial things in here. They'll take all the information they get from this session. They'll debrief. They'll talk to their engineers and come up with the plan for qualifying. But now you've got 4 sets. You've got 4 sets of tires for 4 sessions. Because we only have 5 sessions. 1 practice, 2 qualifiers, 2 races. Now you can look and say, hey, you know what? We may be able to use 2 sets in each qualifying run. They'll go out on fresh rubber because you can't use the carryover tires in qualifying, only in this session.
Rasmus Linn coming down the pit lane.
So probably call it a day for Rasmus Linn.
2.5 minutes left. Yeah.
116 flat, 116.058. Just about 1.2 seconds off the track record. Again, no fresh rubber at all used yet. We'll see what we're able to do in qualifying this afternoon. Lint, Abel, Kirkwood, Thompson, Robb, top 5. Frost, 6th. Rodriguez, 7th. Lostishkin in 8th. Enders, 9th. And De Oliveira, 10th.
Enders and De Oliveira both in the pit lane currently. Stingray Robb just coming out of the pit, so he's on his out lap. But Jacob Abel and Rasmus Linn look like they're going to stand on their times with only 2 minutes left.
A couple drivers going back out. I think that Jacob Abel, indeed, it was able to come back out on track.
Excellent.
So Jacob Abel, again, remember had that minor issue. He's going to go back out with just about 2 minutes remaining. You have to believe he's just going to kind of do a sighting lap or a reconnaissance lap to make sure everything feels good.
Yep.
Whatever the issue was. Parker Thompson back across the line, 116.582, a good baseline run. Back into pit lane as well comes the number 90 of Lostishkin. Currently in the 8th spot, just 0.8 of a second back. Solid start for Nikita as well. Nikita in the number 90. As I said, born in Moscow, Russia, living in Los Angeles, California.
Kyle Kirkwood's last lap, about a second off his quick time. So we'll see as we're down into the final minute here if he's going to click off a quick one here at the end of the session, as Rasmus Linn still just out of the 115s, a 116.0584.
Charles Fanelli finding more speed as well, gets down to a 119.9. Now here's the kind of balance. Tires are getting worn down a little bit. Now we know about the Coopers. They're very consistent from start to finish. They're starting to get worn down, but the fuel load's coming down as well.
Yep.
Car's getting a little bit lighter. They've made some adjustments every time they've come in. See if we see any big laps coming here. Rasmus Linn, done as we said, 43 seconds left. He's going to stand on a 116.058. Jacob Abel, P2, Parker Thompson. There you go. He goes to P3. Thompson a little quicker than Kyle Kirkwood, 115.51. Only gets about a 10th. Here comes the 68 of Daniel Frost from Singapore. P7. He and his teammate separated by just 0.2 of a second at 116.7 for Frost, 116.9 for Lostishkin.
Kirkwood improves to a 16.4, so he moves back around Thompson into third.
We're just chipping away a couple tenths of a second at a time, right?
Yep, exactly.
We have not seen the checkered flag, but we're going to see it now. Time has now elapsed for the drivers here in Indy Pro 2000, the second level of this Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. All right, do we have any last lap heroics? Indeed, Stingray Rob goes to P3. 1:16.378 for Stingray Rob to third. Jacob Abel not able to get any quicker, but we knew he was going out really just to kind of feel the car out, I think. Lint, Abel, and Rob, right now your top three. Kirkwood and Thompson still on the track. Rodriguez goes to P3. Light fuel loads, and drivers laying it down. Again, making adjustments throughout this session, quicker and quicker. Ian Rodriguez, quicker than his teammate Kirkwood. Still more drivers to come. Thompson does not go any quicker. He's going to lock it at 1:16.5. Kirkwood's the final driver, I think. Let's see if Kyle Kirkwood can make things interesting here. Wins 3 of the last 4 races, and he goes to P2. Kyle Kirkwood goes to second, finds about 0.2 of a second, 1:16.268. So your top 5 sees Lint, Kirkwood, Abel, Rodriguez, and Stingray Rob. 2 drivers from Juncos Racing, 2 drivers as well from RP Motorsports Racing. And in fact, 2 drivers from Abel Motorsports. That's your top 6. 3 teams in the top 6. Lint, Kirkwood, Abel, Rodriguez, Robin, Thompson. Top 6 here. Practice, I was going to say practice 1. Only practice.
Yep.
The one and only practice for Indy Pro 2000.
Rob Howden with us here for the Road to Indy. He's going to scamper across track for the Indy Lights session coming up next. But we'll have Rob back with us when we get into qualifying mode a little later this afternoon. So next up is the Indy Lights first practice session of the weekend. That's scheduled to take the track at 10:20. That's just about 10 minutes from now.
For 15 seasons, the Castrol Toyota Racing Series has led the way in New Zealand motorsport. With 170 drivers and 276 races so far, the graduates have made their mark in international motor racing. This is the pathway for the world's young drivers. And this series hits the racetracks of New Zealand for 5 weeks every year on the quest to find the next world champion.
Parker Thompson, Kyle Kirkwood, 1-2, great stop. We're underway. Green. It's a sweep, back-to-back gap.
Road to Indy race recap.
The Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires made its lone trip north of the border on the July 12th to 14th weekend to the beautiful lakeside city of Toronto and the challenging street circuit of Exhibition Place. After shaking off the rust at Road America at the end of June, Aaron Telitz returned to the seat of his number 4 Bilardi Auto Racing Dallara, and he was immediately on pace to begin the Indy Lights weekend battle. The Road to Indy veteran set a new Indy Lights track record on the Toronto street circuit, qualifying for race number 1, and followed up with a dominant victory on Saturday afternoon. Andretti Autosport's Oliver Askew arrived in Toronto as the point leader, and he was also quick out of the gate, finishing second to Telitz in the opening race of the doubleheader. Sunday morning for race 2 was paced by Askew, but Telitz was again on the move at the green flag, aiming an aggressive move to the inside of turn 1 to assume the lead. Midway through the race, VK attempted to lunge for the lead heading into turn number 3 at the end of the Lakeshore Boulevard, but he could not make the turn and ended up in the tire barrier. Telitz was blocked from making the turn in the process, and he too made contact. This altercation opened the door for Askew to emerge as the leader, and he would go on to score his 4th win of the season to take a 25-point lead to Mid-Ohio in 2 weeks. The challenging Turn 11 caught out a number of Road to Indy drivers throughout the weekend. RP Motorsports' Kyle Kirkwood avoided these issues to sweep both Indy Pro 2000 qualifying session to start each race from the pole. On the run down to turn 1 to start the first race on Saturday, Exclusive Autosports' Daniel Frost leveraged his P3 starting spot to make a decisive move down the inside of Kirkwood to take over the lead. Frost took advantage of the opportunity and pulled away to the lead until the full course yellow flew for the hard contact by De La Vera in turn 11. But on both restarts, Frost handled his challengers and was rewarded with his 2nd win of the year. Point leader Rasmus Linn of Juncos Racing was strong all weekend. He finished 2nd in race 1 to extend his point lead over Parker Thompson, who rounded out the podium in his Able Motorsports entry. Kirkwood came back on Sunday, having learned from a Saturday start to lead green to checker for his third win in the last 4 events. The Cooper Tires USF2000 Championship saw a pair of new race winners in Toronto, as both Darren Keane and Christian Rasmussen notched their first Road to Indy victories. Keane emerged from a hard-fought battle with Rasmussen and Hunter McElroy on Saturday to record his long-awaited first victory, and Keane came back on Sunday looking for more, starting from pole. Rasmussen joined Keane on the front row for the second straight race, and this time, the Jay Howard driver development pilot was the man to beat. The Danish driver did not put a wheel wrong, letting the fight take place in his rear-view mirrors. Keane capped off his Toronto weekend with a crucial second-place finish. With another enjoyable trip to Canada now in the history books, the Road to Indy Caravan will now return to the United States, which will take the teams and drivers to the popular Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course on the July 26 to 28 weekend. Victorious at Mid-Ohio. His car coming through that corner.
Hi, my name is Braden Eves. I drive the number 8 car for Cape Motorsports and the USF2000 series. So I was born in Gahanna, Ohio, and just last year I moved to New Albany, Ohio. So I'm sharing the hometown of Graham Rahal. So I actually do a lot of driver coaching to actually support myself and my racing as well. Lately I've been spending a lot of time with my friends and girlfriend around water. I was just at her lake house a couple weekends ago, as well as my good friend has a pond at his house where I've been trying to get rid of this farmer's tan and just get some sun and enjoy the water, go swimming a little bit, and just relax a little bit, get some time away from the track. So my favorite racetrack so far has definitely been Road America. That place, the circuit itself is super technical. I really love the circuit, as well as just the atmosphere of the place. Being in the woods, the weather's always amazing. I really like that track, as well as Portland was my debut race last year in the USF2000 series. So I'm really looking forward to that, having a little bit of time there under my belt. We should be really strong there as well, so I'm really looking forward to Portland. You can follow me on the Road to Indy at Braden Eves on Instagram and Twitter, and at Braden Eves Racing on Facebook.
Road to Indy 101.
Okay, first practice has just ended for Indy Pro 2000. We followed the Young Coast Racing guys back to their trailer, and now we're gonna see what goes on in the engineering room after a session. All right, so we're here in the engineering room. This is where the drivers and the engineers come after a session to talk about the on-track action. We've got Stingray Rob and his engineer Kevin here. So Stingray, what is it that you've got in front of you here?
So this is a debrief sheet. First thing when I come off the track, I come in and I fill this out, and it's just talking about what I felt in the car, and then I put down comments in this section here so that I can kind of give more in-depth of what I want from the car and how I think the car can be better so I can go faster.
Move over to Kevin. When your driver completes his debrief sheet, you guys have talked. What is it that happens next? You look at data? Do you?
Yeah, so typically I take a look at the sheet and see where he's having trouble the most. So is it understeer, oversteer that he's fighting? Where on track in the high speed, low speed corners? That would give me an idea of what kind of changes we'd need to make to the car and where to look in the data. And so sometimes you see very little differences, right? In braking, it doesn't look like much, but we're talking hundreds of PSI difference. And that could be a difference of the exit speed being 5 to 6 miles an hour, which in the long term can be 3/10 on track.
Okay, so over on the other side of the room here, we've got another Juncos Racing Indy Pro driver, Rasmus Linn, and his driver coach, the team driver coach, Victor Franzoni. And these guys are going over some video. And why don't you guys tell us what it is that, Victor, your position is with the team as the driver coach?
Yeah, so like 2 years ago I was driving for Juncos Race, and this year I started to driver coach. So I try to give all my experience, everything I live it, and all the race, and just in this part, like showing some small tricks that it's a big thing the end of the weekend, because the weekend is super short.
Makes sense. So we're here at Toronto. As a coach, what do you think is the most challenging part of this track for these drivers?
I think this track here, it changed so much during the weekend. Normally you do first session, then when you end the weekend, you're being 3 or 4 seconds faster. This has been the most work here in Toronto. Is just about how much the track's changing, and in the races, how we can run from everybody else and win the race.
Yeah, well, that's the goal, right? All right, this has been a behind-the-scenes look at the debrief process that happens in the engineering room after every session on the road to Indy.
Scott across the yard works. Huge wreck.
Road to Indy 101.
All right, we've gone further back into the Dallara facility here in Speedway, and now we're in the simulator room. I've got Bryce from Dallara Group here with me. He's gonna show us what this is all about, and he's here to answer questions. So right off the bat, what is this? What do we have here?
Alrighty, so this is a professional F1 aerospace graded simulator. It is one of 3 in the entire world of its kind. There is one here in this facility and 2 over in Italy. So we've got actually 3 different models that we can test at this one. Right now the mock-up that you see in it is an Indy Lights IndyCar mock-up. Different car models are mathematically inputted into the software up in the control room. Basically you can change any type of setup that you would want to run in a matter of seconds with the amount of technology and everything that's involved.
What are the advantages of doing a sim day here as opposed to driving the race car in real life?
Cost effectiveness. You know, you don't have to rent out a track. But if you crash a simulator,
no crash damage, that's always good.
You can get started back up again in 30 seconds and you're not losing any parts. So we've got a 180-degree screen that's ran by 3 projectors. You'll notice that there's different speakers too. When we turn it on, you'll hear, I mean, it even sounds like a real car. There's a big bass booster back here.
Okay. Let's say if I was going to come do a test day, how would we fit me in here so that it's exactly like my race car?
Yes,
do I bring my own seat and all that?
Yep. And we would change, I believe these are the IndyCar side pods, and we would throw on the Indy Lights side pods and get it all set up to, you know, make sure you are as close to being in the real car
as that same tactile sensation, same feedback. Like you belt them down, you got to wear a helmet and everything, the whole thing. The real question, has anyone ever been sick in this thing, in the motion?
So yes, there are some guys that they suffer from motion sickness, and sometimes it's not the best thing for them. So, but the sim also has the option to be a stationary platform. So most of the time, and if that's the case, then we just make it a stationary platform.
This has been a behind-the-scenes tour of the Dallara simulator here at the facility in Speedway, Indiana. Thank you, Bryce, for giving us the tour of the facility. It's been very informative.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Hope to see you in here for a session sometime.
Yeah, we'll have to set.
With Malukas. this freight train as now Malukas dives down to the inside. 3 wide through turn 4. Let this guy
Road to Indy, beyond the grid.
Hi, my name's Dalton Keller, driver of the number 67 K-Line Insulators USA Indy Lights car with Yonkos Racing. I was born in Toronto, Ontario, grew up in Stouffville, which is about 45 minutes north of the city. It was a great place to grow up, so we lived in a sort of a more rural suburb, but I went to school downtown, so we had to drive in and out of the city. It was a great place to grow up. As a Canadian, cottage life is a big part of the culture, so we have a family cottage up on a lake, and there was always weekends up at the cottage, and back in the city during the week. And then once I started racing, we were traveling all over Canada doing the go-kart thing, which was really fun. The Canadian racing community is very tight-knit, and it was a really cool experience growing up to be part of that. Love to play guitar. I have a 4-year-old German Shepherd. She takes up a lot of my time. She needs a lot of exercise and play and training, so that's always been a lot of fun, yeah. I had an old Fuji road bike that I had ridden when I was a kid, and luckily the frame was still kind of the right size. I thought, oh, this would be a cool like Zwift or trainer bike that I could build, or like a track bike kind of thing. And I basically stripped it down to a bare frame and sanded it, prepped everything, did a custom black and teal paint job. Kind of matches the race car a little bit with that, and then had to rebuild it up with all new components and stuff. It was kind of a cool little project, yeah. Follow me on the road to Indy this year. You can catch the action on my social at Dalton Keller on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Double green flags showing here at start finish as the field comes around. First across the stripe is the 28 of our points leader, Oliver Askew, out of Jupiter, Florida, for Andretti. Santi Arrutia holds the lap record here at Mid-Ohio for the Indy Lights, a 1:10.9428. Again, about 5 to 6 seconds quicker than we saw for the Indy Pro 2000 drivers. The race lap record is held by Jack Harvey, a 1:18.58. His record set back in 2015. Santi Arrutia's record set in 2016. Just an in and out lap for the two of Toby Sowery as he takes a quick installation lap and comes right back into the pits. Toby, a British driver out of Cambridge in the UK for BN Racing and Team Pelfrey in the very recognizable yellow Pelfrey colors. Oliver Askew giving himself a little bit of a gap here as he takes off on a flying lap. Robert Mcginnis fires the first shot as the driver out of New York City for Andretti. First across the line, Oliver Askew, Ryan Norman, Lucas Cole, Dalton Keller, Rinus VeeKay, Aaron Telitz, Toby Sowery, and David Malukas all here. Toby Sowery, as we mentioned, just a quick in and out as his team making some last-minute adjustments on that number 2 car. Rinus VeeKay having a spin at turn 1, apparently. At the exit of turn 1, carried a little too much speed and looped it, but he has been able to continue. So Rinus VeeKay in the 21 car. Just a little bit too much pace here on his first lap for Juncos Racing. And there goes Toby Sowery pulling away from his pit stall. So now all 9 drivers out on track as the Belardi teammates come by. Aaron Telitz and Lucas Cole. Aaron Telitz takes the first bite of the apple at the top of the time charts, a 1:17.19. But again, we'll see times significantly faster than that. That's only the second flying lap. Oliver Askew takes over the top spot, a 1:14.6 as the time's really beginning to tumble now. Robert Mcginnis second quick. Now Rinus VeeKay takes over the second spot. Both of them in the 1:14s. Ryan Norman from Aurora up into third position. As the 21 off track here, Rinus VeeKay carrying a little too much speed off the final turn and off driver's right. I overlooked that word. Thank you. So the 21 of Rinus VeeKay doing a little agricultural racing here as he hooked two wheels over the gator's teeth, coming on to the front straightaway here. But he still stays second quick. Now Robert Mcginnis takes over that top spot as he and Oliver Askew dip into the 1:13s now in the early stages of this session. This session a little bit longer than the previous ones, 45 minutes the time for this Indy Lights session. So these drivers and teams a little more opportunity to work their way through their setup routines. As Rob Howden was saying, they had some test opportunities here yesterday, but this will be the first official session of the weekend. And based on past experience, it will take several laps to get these tires up to temperature and begin to see the quick laps turned in by these Cooper Tires Indy Lights drivers. Oliver Askew, quickest in this session. Started out the season at St. Petersburg with a podium in the second race and then backed that up with back-to-back wins at COTA, the first of his 4 wins on the season. On the podium again at the road course at Indianapolis, and then took the win on the big oval at Indianapolis. A podium again in the second round at Road America, a podium in the first round at Toronto, and his 4th win of the season in the most recent round just a couple weeks ago, also at Toronto. So with 4 wins and 5 podiums, 4 pole positions for Oliver Askew, he has been the man to beat this season, but Rinus VeeKay has been very consistent as well, as he's right behind him with only 3 wins. Rinus took the first win of the season in the first round at St. Petersburg, backed that up with a podium in the first round at COTA, and then a podium and a win at the Grand Prix of Indy. Podiumed at Indianapolis on the oval. Took the pole at Road America in the first race, but did not score a podium finish, but came back the second day and took the win. On the podium, one of the rounds at Toronto. So 3 wins and 4 podiums, 3 poles for Rinus VeeKay. Has kept him right in the hunt. He's only 25 points behind Oliver Askew. Ryan Norman, 3rd in the points, another 38 points back, 63 off the lead. He has a single win. That's the first round at Road America, and he backed that up with a podium on the oval at Indy and a podium in the second round at Road America. But those his only podium appearances so far, but still keeping him very much in the hunt. Robert Mcginnis right hot on his heels. Mcginnis with 3 podiums this year. On the podium both times at Circuit of the Americas, but then backed that up with a win in the next round at the Grand Prix of Indianapolis on the road course. He was on the pole on the oval at Indy. did not finish in the points, just finished just outside the top 5 at Road America, back on the podium once again. Didn't have a particularly stellar weekend at Toronto, so Robert Mcginnis looking to be on the bounce back, and he is second quick. Oliver Askew, the only driver in the 112s, as our points leader with a 112.79 for his fastest lap of this session, and just improves that to a 112.59, so chipping away at about 2/10 at a time. Robert Mcginnis joins him in the 12s at a 112.93, so about 3/10 between those two. Dalton Keller now moves up into the second spot. Keller in the 67 car for Juncos Racing, so he and Rinus VeeKay teammates. Robert Mcginnis aboard the 27 for Andretti Autosport. So 3 drivers under a minute 13 now. Askew with a 12.59, Kellett with a 12.74, Mcginnis with a 12.93. So just about 3/10 of a second separate those top 3. Then it's another 1/10 and a half back to Rinus VeeKay in 4th, the first driver in the 113s. Aurora, Ohio's Ryan Norman, less than 1/10 of a second behind VeeKay. Aaron Telitz, another 2/10 back. The entire field separated by just over 2 seconds. But the top 6, about 8/10 between them, so very competitive as we would expect. Oliver Askew, after setting that quick time of the session, backs off just a bit on this lap as he's going to make his way into the pit lane for an adjustment. Index investments on the side of Oliver Askew's Andretti Autosport machine. Aaron Telitz also rolls down the pit lane in one of the 2 Bilardi Auto Racing machines. Aaron out of Rice Lake, Wisconsin. It's his hometown. Currently lives in Birchwood, Wisconsin. Telitz 6th quick in this session, a 112.97, about just under 4/10 of a second off the quick time, still held by Oliver Askew, who is in the pits currently. Putting an eye on the Andretti stable down at the far end of the pit lane. Looks like they're just doing a routine stop, checking tire temperatures, debriefing their driver, seeing what he wants to tweak the car and get it a little quicker for him. But he is fastest at the moment. Again, putting that time into perspective, about 2 seconds off the lap record held by Santi Urrutia, set back here in 2016. David Malukas from Chicago for BN Racing brings his car down the pit lane. He is currently in the 9th and last position of the drivers that have turned times. Dalton Keller takes over the top spot as he pips Oliver Askew by less than 1/10 of a second, a 112.5090 for Dalton Keller as he takes over the top spot out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, currently living in Indianapolis for Juncos Racing. So now 6 drivers under a minute 13. Dalton Keller in the 67, Oliver Askew in the 28, Rinus VeeKay in the 21, all 3 of them in the pit lane currently. 4th is Robert Mcginnis, who is out circulating aboard the number 27. Ryan Norman also still out on track aboard the 48. Aaron Telitz in the pits in the number 4 car. All 6 of those drivers under a minute 13. The top 6 separated by less than half a second. Toby Sowery in the yellow number 2 is the first driver in the 13s. He's currently 7th. Lucas Cole in the 5 car. Next in the order is the 27 comes down the pit lane, Robert Mcginnis. Ryan Norman currently the only driver on track right at the moment. Everybody else in the pit lanes, as we're about 15 minutes into this 45-minute session, so 30 minutes yet remain. And now Ryan Norman comes down the pit lane. So we have everybody in the pits currently. No incidents on track to bring out this wholesale bid activity, as it looks like Oliver Askew cranking up his car as he's about to take advantage of the clear track. And he rolls away. So Oliver Askew will have the track all to himself at this point, as he is second quick, a 112.5946, as the four-time winner, leading the points by 25. Looking at the schedule for the rest of the morning, next on track will be the first appearance of the weekend for the NTT IndyCar Series drivers, as they'll take the track at 11:20. The first of our autograph sessions is kicking off during that session. Our USF2000 drivers will be signing autographs over in the Firestone Fan Village at 11:30. They'll be followed at 12:10 by the Indy Lights and the Indy Pro 2000 drivers signing autograph sessions. And then we'll have the first appearance of the Stadium Super Trucks here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, as their first practice/qualifying session is at 12:20 this afternoon. The Global MX5 Cup drivers will be out for their second practice session at 1:05 as we begin the afternoon round. And then we go back to the top of the order with the USF2000 drivers for their first qualifying session. Indy Lights will be next in the order for their Q1. The Indy cars will be back out for their second practice session of the day. And then we'll round out the day with the qualifying session for the Indy Pro 2000 drivers. So Oliver Askew, the only driver out on track. As the rest of this 9-car field making some mid-session adjustments. About 17 minutes gone, about 28 minutes remaining in this session. Here comes Askew. Sounds to be on a good lap here as he's taken a lap or so to get everything up to temperature once again. Dalton Keller coming back out on track to join Oliver Askew. Keller in the 67 car for Juncos Racing. Just want to remind you, those of you camping here at the track, this year's Camping with Honda theme is Family Gras, a family-friendly Mardi Gras party. Campers join the fun by decorating your campsite. Preliminary judging is tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and Colton Herta will have the final say at 5:45 to select the winning campers. All participating sites will receive a Honda 200 prize. Toby Sowery rolling away from his pit lane as he joins the field as well. David Malukas out on track in the 79 car. Oliver Askew's last lap, a 13.1, so a little off his best time of 12.5. Dalton Keller still with the honors, but only by less than a tenth of a second, 85 hundredths of a second, separating he from Dalton Keller.
I'm good. How are you? Not bad. So here's the deal. I've got this third line we're changing a switch.
Okay.
The network switch. And we think that will solve the problem. But I cannot do it while we're live.
I understand.
And there's no way to test this with 4 voices.
Understood.
So I'm kind of, we go hot, and all the mics are on right now. I can hear all 4 corners.
Got it.
In my console, so I can feel, but
And we only talk one at a time, so.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that the bandwidth doesn't
Yeah.
go too crazy. And then you figured out that this
Yeah.
is your talk around.
Yeah.
Now we don't hear that,
Understood.
and we can't talk to it. We can monitor it in the engineering position.
Understood.
But that's you guys alone.
Understood. Okay. Cool
And
breeze.
anybody else, all the others can talk to Styles, and they'll hear Styles as well.
Sure. Okay.
So anyhow, let me take this up. I'm gonna run another cable. Let me do that while I've got you. Kind of.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Just get some cables through here. I wish I'd known that they were planning on these you guys to make this.
No, it was a surprise to me as well.
How many bodies do they want in here?
Yeah, exactly.
For Christ's sakes.
Exactly.
How was your trip up? Okay.
Yeah, no issues.
Trip down. No trip up. And I've got the multi-view up for you too, right? Did you see that?
Yes, I did see that.
Does that inspire you or no?
Sure, yeah, it's helpful. Absolutely.
It's pretty handy. This one. This I don't know why it's losing connectivity, but it comes back. So it could just be the fact that it's a firmware update required. And I'll do that.
Let me check to see if it's.
It's been working.
Yeah, it was on just a minute ago, and then it lost its connection.
So something that little neck gear switch may be getting beat up.
Anything is possible. Could be that it's trying to log on to the. No, it's on the net gears.
It's battery, so it's going to work. So I'll change the batteries right now.
Dalton Keller still showing the way with a 1:12.5. Oliver Askew second quick by just about a tenth of a second. Rinus VeeKay another half a tenth back. In third, Ryan Norman just under a tenth back. So the top 4 separated by a quarter of a second. Robert Mcginnis also right in the thick of it is now all 9 drivers back on track as we're coming up on half distance in this session. About 21 minutes remaining. If you're in view of the big screens, we're riding with David Malukas aboard the number 79 BN Racing entry. HMD Trucking sponsoring his car. Working his way through turn 11 down into the carousel turn is Malukas. And onto the front straightaway right in front of us as he comes across the line. His last lap, a 1:14.03. A couple seconds off his quickest time of a 1:12.8. Dalton Keller, Oliver Askew still showing the way at the front of the field. David Malukas, as we said, he's the 9th of the drivers on track right now. His best lap, a 14.45, and that was his last lap. Was his best. Just under 2 seconds off the top speed. As his onboard camera gives us a nice 360-degree view out the back of his car over the HMD Trucking Wing logo. 20 minutes remaining in the session. Rinus VeeKay has just fired the fastest lap aboard the number 21 machine for Juncos Racing as the Danish driver turns a 1:12.46, pipping Dalton Keller by less than a tenth of a second, about half a tenth. Oliver Askew still third, Ryan Norman fourth, Robert Mcginnis rounding out the top five. Aaron Telitz rolls down the pit lane in the Belardi number 4. Telitz currently 6th quickest, about half a second off the ultimate pace set by Rinus VeeKay. VeeKay needs to keep Oliver Askew behind him this weekend, as he needs to close the gap to Askew as we get into the second half of the season here. And at the moment he's done so, but only by the slimmest of margins. Half a tenth of a second separates those two. Actually about 2/10 of a second now, as VeeKay goes even quicker, a 1:12.3054 for Rinus VeeKay. Toby Sowery back into the pits. He's been in and out of the pits quite frequently here, so his crew apparently chasing an issue in that BN Racing Team Pelfrey Gap Guard Rich Energy sponsored machine. Ryan Norman also in the pits, along with Aaron Telitz. Santi Urrutia's race qualifying record, a 1:10.94, hasn't been bothered yet, as Rinus VeeKay is closest to it with a 1:12.3. But again, as we were talking with Rob Howden, drivers most likely carrying over used tires from either the previous race round or the test sessions that were held here yesterday. When we get into qualifying mode this afternoon, we'll see these times come down rather dramatically when they bolt on a fresh set of Cooper rubber. Just flashing by the stripe, the 67 of Dalton Keller. His last lap, a couple seconds off his quickest. He's still second fast at a 1:12.5. Points leader Oliver Askew in third, but by less than a tenth of a second. Robert Mcginnis, Ryan Norman, Aaron Telitz, Toby Sowery, and David Malukas all in the pits, as we have about 17 minutes remaining in this 45-minute session. Just a reminder, coming up at 11:20 will be the first appearance by the NTT IndyCar drivers, and 10 minutes into that session will be the autograph session for the USF2000 drivers, and that is their only autograph session. Again, that's over in the Indy Fan Village, located in the manufacturer's midway. Rinus VeeKay still atop the order in the Soul Red number 21. Comes down the pit lane. He's joined by Robert Mcginnis, Ryan Norman, Toby Sowery, and David Malukas down on the pit road at the moment.
That's mute. Yep. When it's green, because that box was green the whole time I was out there.
They're on. I've got them on because I can hear them. So you can feel free to shut it off if you want.
Now when you're on calm,
it mutes that mic.
It will mute it.
But when you come off calm, it's still hot. It's not like the old AB100s. You punch them in and out, right?
Yeah. So you don't have to push this again.
No. Yeah.
So I go on calm and I'm not on the PA, but back now as Rinus VeeKay goes a little bit quicker. His last lap was his fastest, a 1:12.1358, just before coming into the pits. Dalton Keller rolling down the pit lane right now is third quick now. Oliver Askew also on a hot lap, as he is just clicked off a 1:12.1844. We have our first red flag of the day as we have a car off at turn 5. We can see the dust cloud as someone just carried the braking a little bit too late, dropped it off into China Beach. I believe it is Lucas Cole in the number 5 car who is off in the gravel trap as one of the AMR safety crew sprinting out to him to make sure he's okay. David Malukas in the 79, the only other driver who has not yet come back into the pit lane. So and we're getting a nice replay of it, and just a little too much speed. Couldn't even make the turn in was Lucas Cole as he went straight into the gravel trap, but the gravel does its job, slows the car down from the highest speed braking zone on the racetrack. And no harm, no foul, other than a little dust and gravel that his team will not be happy to clean out of every crack and crevice of that race car. But the AMR safety crew already, Johnny, on the spot as they've got one of the lifts ready to get that car picked up by the roll bar and out of harm's way. We'll get this session back underway. Countdown clock continues under this red flag condition as we've got just now 13 minutes remaining in the session. Rinus VeeKay is your leader as he's doing what he needs to do, keeping Oliver Askew behind him in the order, a 1:12.1358 for Rinus VeeKay. But less than half a tenth of a second back is Oliver Askew in the 28 car. Second quick, Dalton Keller, who is 7th in the points right now, coming off his best finish of the season at Toronto, is third quick, only about a quarter of a second behind Oliver Askew. And then another tenth and a half back to Robert Mcginnis. Mcginnis currently 4th in the points, a winner and 3 podiums already for him this season. A further tenth and a half back is Ryan Norman, the Ohio driver, and the 48 car. Ryan currently 3rd in the points, a pair of podiums and a win so far. But good consistent finishes just outside the podium positions have kept him in the hunt. Aaron Telitz in the Bilardi number 4 is currently 6th quick. He's about a quarter of a second behind Ryan Norman. Toby Sowery less than half a tenth behind Aaron Telitz in 7th. Lucas Cole, who's being extracted from the gravel trap down at China Beach, another 2 tenths back as everyone save David Malukas is within a second of the quickest time in this session. Lucas Cole's car being deposited on the racing surface here by the AMR safety crew, and he should be able to continue under his own power back to the pit lane. So once he gets back, we should have about 10 minutes remaining in this session.
It's gain, actually. So I kept the gain down. I wanted to tell you, for the day, like for the weekend, you stay on this. This is you.
Yes, yes.
Put Tony on this.
Got it.
And Mo back there. However you want to do that, but these are the guests. Now, the thing is, John, you have to tell, I'm going to go down and mute these two.
Yep.
So you have to tell us when you're going to go hot with these
Sure.
guys, and then I'll turn the channels on in the console.
Got it.
Okay? You do that, buddy.
Like it's good.
Cross all your fingers, toes, hands, thumbs, because this should be the most fun you've had with announcing.
Of course it will.
Because there'll be no fucking bullshit. You're not going to have any bleed.
Yes.
You probably already noticed that. There's no delay, there's no bleed, it's clean.
Everything's good.
Yeah, so let's just hope that all 4 of these at once doesn't cause a big problem today. I'm going to have to get you more batteries. I'm going to go get a sleeve of them. You're good for now. That's 4, but I'm going to get you a box with like 24 because these should, like I say, these are going to have to be changed. Now, 6 batteries needed.
Got it.
Per day.
Got it.
Okay?
Okay.
Thanks, buddy.
Cool breeze, bud. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
And Lucas Cole finally underway with a little help from the AMR safety crew, getting him high-centered on the curbing coming out of China Beach, but he is back underway under his own power, making his way around to the pit lane. And we should have the course open once again here with a little under 10 minutes remaining for the last 10 minutes of this first practice session for the Indy Lights, the Cooper Tires Indy Lights Grand Prix of Mid-Ohio here this weekend. Great to have you with us on a beautiful weekend. Weather promises to be good throughout the weekend, getting a little warmer each successive day as temperatures forecast in the mid 80s by Sunday. Nothing like the scorching temperatures that we had here a week ago. As Lucas Cole has made it around into the pit lane, and he'll be stopping at his pits for a little gravel extraction. And the green flag is out as the field heads out, and we've got at least one driver out on a set of sticker tires. I believe that's David Malukas. We'll see as he comes around the pit lane. Yep, got to ride along with David, and you can see the stickers flashing on his Cooper tires, so we'll see for what kind of additional pace that gives for David Malukas, as he is currently 9th and last on the track, about 2 seconds off the ultimate pace held by Rinus VeeKay. You can see, you can watch him fighting the car as those tires, the sticker tires, a little slick at the beginning of their run. They've still got the mold release film on them and still got the stickers themselves, obviously, and it takes a turn or two to wear those off and get them down to race-ready condition. David Malukas coming up over turn 5, down into turn 6. Under the Honda bridge, the car gets light at this point over 10A there, or 8A I should say, down into turn 9. The very tricky exit right out to the Gator's Teeth. And then the blind turn 11, where you turn in before seeing where the exit will be. Then the sweeping carousel turn, one of the signature turns here at Mid-Ohio, as Malukas still showing some remnants of the sticker on that right front tire, but he's across the line now, getting things pretty well warmed up. We'll see how much he can improve his times now with those fresh Coopers. Right out to the Gator's Teeth at turn number 1 as we continue to ride with David Malukas. 7 minutes remain in the session. Oliver Askew already dips into the 12s on his first out lap. As everybody back on track except the 2 Belardi teammates. Aaron Tielitz. Lucas Cole just now heading back out on track after his trip to the gravel. His teammate Aaron Tielitz still in the pit lane currently, the only driver in the pit lane right now, as the rest of the field is out in this final 6.5 minutes still remaining. Riding with Malukas once again as he exits the keyhole turn and heads down the long back straightaway. See the dog leg right there. There's the starter's stand for the start of the race. And then heavy braking down into turn 4, turn 5 at the top of the hill. Lucas gives up a little bit of that apex in order to have a good setup for this very important turn 6. Through turn 9, drifting out to the Gator's Teeth at the edge. Down in Thunder Valley and across the timeline comes David Malukas. His best lap, a 1:14.2. That lap, a 1:14.9. So still not quite as quick as he would like, I'm sure. Malukas on the podium at COTA so far this year. Still looking for his first pole position. And 4.5 minutes remain in the session for Malukas to work with his BN Racing team to find a little more speed, as he's about 2 seconds off the pace, about a second behind Lucas Cole, who is currently 8th fastest. Oliver Askew, his last lap, a 1:12.9, about 0.8 of a second off his quickest lap. He comes across the stripe here in the waning moments of this session. 4 minutes or so remaining. Toby Sowery across the timing stripe, just about a half a second off his best time of the session at a 13.6. His best lap, a 13 flat. Aaron Telitz has rejoined. Currently 6th quickest, so now all 9 drivers out on the track. Malukas finally cracks the 113s as he's got the tires fully up to temperature. A 113.4 draws him within a 1/10.5 of Lucas Cole. 3.5 minutes remain in the session. With 3 minutes remaining, Rinus VeeKay continues to have set the pace. His last lap about a half a second off his quickest. A 1:12.4 now on the lap just completed. Dalton Keller, a 1:12.9 on his most recent lap, also just a tad off his quickest time of the session. David Malukas moves up into 6th spot as he's finding some speed in that number 79 car with the fresh rubber. Malukas up to 6th now with a 1:12.867. 7 drivers of the 9 now under a minute 13. Toby Sowery right on the cusp with a 1:13.01. Lucas Cole a 1:13.2. The entire field separated by 1 second. It's been the hallmark of Indy Lights competition, the close racing that we've seen. Oliver Askew flashes across the timing line with a 1:12.8. About 7/10 off his quickest time of the session. And off the pace as he comes up to turn number 1 here. So Askew perhaps looking for some clear track to give one final blast in the closing moments of this session here with a minute and a half left. David Malukas continues to go quicker, a 1:12.808 for the number 79 out of Chicago for BN Racing. Malukas closes to within half a 1/10 of a second of Ryan Norman and the top 5. So despite just about 6 minutes of red flag time in this session to retrieve Lucas Cole from the China Beach gravel trap, we've been clean and green for much of this session with less than a minute remaining. So the lap's in progress and perhaps one more, depending on how they catch the lights. Aaron Telitz across the line at a 13.6, about a half a second off his ultimate best time of the session. He'll get one more. Oliver Askew with a 1:22 and some change. It looked like when he came by last time he was getting himself a little separation, so this will be a hot lap for Oliver Askew as he'll hope to take over that top spot. Right behind him, the 5 of Ryan Norman, not quite as quick as his fastest lap, about 3/10. Dalton Keller also about a half a second off his quickest lap. David Malukas moves up another spot as the 79 goes into the top 5. He's 4th now for BN Racing. Malukas with a 1:12.5938, putting those new tires to good use. And the checkered flag on its way into the starter's hand and is now being shown. So these laps in progress will be scored. We'll keep an eye on the scoring monitor as we expect we'll see some fast laps here in the closing minutes of this session. Aaron Telitz, first to see the checker. His 1:13.4, about a half a second off his best time. He'll stay at least 7th with a 1:12.976. Oliver Askew now sees the checkers. No improvement for him, as he apparently got balked at some point on the track, as he'll stand on the 1:12.18 that he turned earlier in the session. Good for second quick. Renus VK, not quite as quick as his best lap, but in the 12s nonetheless. So he'll stand on that 1:12.13 set earlier in the session. So he'll hang on to the top spot. And everybody has seen the checkers. So that's your order. Renus VK, 25 points out of the lead in the championship, the 3-time winner with the quickest time, a 1:12.1358. If he's able to turn that into a pole coming up this afternoon, it would be his 4th pole of the season. Oliver Askew, the points leader by 25 points, second quick. Those two separated by half a tenth of a second, 0.0486, the difference. Dalton Keller, another quarter of a second back. Keller currently 7th in the points, but coming off his best finish of the season at Toronto. Keller with a 1:12.449. A further 10th and a half back is David Malukas, who mounted a late session charge with those fresh tires. 4th quick at a 1:12.59. And then 29/10,000ths of a second back is Robert Mcginnis aboard the 27 Andretti Autosport machine out of New York City. Robert with a 1:12.5967. A 10th and a half back to Ryan Norman from Aurora, Ohio in the 48 car. Aaron Telitz in the number 4 is 7th. Toby Sowery in the 2 is 8th. And Lucas Cole, despite his trip to the gravel trap, 9th quickest with a 1:13.228. The entire field, again, separated by right at 1 second. We'll have just a little longer delay as we allow the IndyCar teams to make their way onto the pit lane, but they are next on track as the NTT IndyCar Series practice number 1 coming up in about 10 minutes' time.